it's been a wonderful day when the spirit of yoga has been celebrated in the United States with the message not just for the UN and those collected over there or those assembled over there, but for people across the world. It's a message of peace, a message of unity. We heard the mayor of New York speak as well when he spoke about how looking after one's emotional needs, one's physical needs, one's mental needs was so very important. It's something that he needed to speak about. The Prime Minister spoke about yoga being a unifying experience, a unifying tool for people across the world. And really what India has done over the last several years, led by the Prime Minister, is to internationalize yoga more than it's ever been done. And it has already been an international phenomena, has yoga, but giving it that impetus, which is what we have seen over the last several years, all the way now to the United Nations, where we've had nationalities, people from all over the world setting a world record, is what has just been announced, a Guinness Book of World Record for the maximum number of people of different nationalities being assembled in any one place practicing yoga. That is very, very welcome indeed. And the Prime Minister was in the middle of the entire gathering over there, following the moves by those yoga gurus on that stage. So all of this has been happening in New York. Let's go across to Dr. Deepak Sachdev. He's a medical yoga expert and president of the Medical Yoga Association. Thanks very much for being with us. Your thoughts about this occasion and the fact that the Prime Minister of India has spearheaded this in a way to make this a truly international phenomena.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Our Prime Minister has taken it to the next level altogether, and a lot of people are now connecting with yoga. And yoga is also now seen as an alternative therapy method. So people are not just doing yoga for the sake of fitness or just for improving their flexibility. But now the entire global community is also looking towards yoga as a therapeutic medium also to heal their medical problems. So yes, the effort of the government, the Prime Minister in particular, is going a long way and is definitely helping people not just uplift themselves physically, but also mentally and spiritually.
I think it's also amazing that there's been a world record by the Guinness Book of World Records, a new record for them, 135 nationalities, people of 135 nationalities. Let's just listen in to what's happening now. The previous record, as I understand it, was people from 114 nationalities had assembled in a place before.
Please, I would request everyone to remain at their seats again. I appreciate your kind understanding and cooperation. I'd like to make a few announcements. We will have a photo opportunity now of some of the youngsters. Please, if you may, please stay at your seat, at your yoga mat.
So the Prime Minister reaching out to some of the young yoga practitioners over there, children, speaking to them, discussing the event. It's been quite informal in a sense. None of the protocol attached with the visiting Prime Minister evident on display over there. The only part of it is, people being told stay in your mats until the Prime Minister departs. But Prime Minister Modi is all too happy to be speaking to those children over there. He addressed the gathering earlier on, and then he went into the middle of the gathering of yoga practitioners, sat with them and practiced yoga. That same stage where he initially spoke to people was the stage which was used by the yoga gurus, and he's very relaxed. He's speaking to all of these children over here, reaching out to them, talking who knows about what, perhaps about yoga, but it's a great sight. Joining us now, Vandana Jhingan, Midwest Bureau Chief of TV Asia. Thanks very much, Vandana, for being with us. It is interesting, your thoughts and whatever we've seen so far today. How significant is it in terms of, reaching a larger international audience?
As you did mention, first.
Go ahead, Vandana.
Morning at the United Nations, presented by the head of the country, Bharat, Honorable Narendra Modi, starting with yoga. Yoga means union. I am myself a practicing yogi from last more than 35 years. Mm-hmm. And when there was a call 9+ years ago at the UN, you know how it.
Vandana, that line with you keeps getting disrupted. We'll try and come back to you in just a few moments from now. More photographs with the Prime Minister. Rajiv Dogra, the Senior Foreign Service Officer retired, joins us now. Mr. Dogra, you've sort of practiced Indian foreign policy. You've been a diplomat for so many decades. But, this is India's soft diplomacy. And at so many levels, that's also been such an important part of India's diplomatic message. For example, we've seen it in the past in a different context through Bollywood. We continue to see that. But this is different. This is new. And it seems to appeal to so many people across the world.
Certainly, Vishnu, you put your finger on the pulse of, and also the essence of the subject. Because in today's age, when you have Ukraine on one side, when you have bombs going on one side, and you have friction between countries on one side, you have this message coming out from virtually the center of the world, because United Nations really is the center for everything that can be positive in humanity or together by humanity, that yoga is exactly the one exercise or form of human living that breathes in positivity and brings out positivity, which is exactly what the world needs. But if I may add, yoga is not a new practice for India and nor a new message for the world. In fact, anyone who reads Bhagavad Gita, the message of Krishna is in 18 forms of yoga. And then, since you talk of the soft diplomacy, Chanakya, in his famous work, calls yoga as a form of soft diplomacy. He's talked of soft diplomacy as a practice of diplomacy, an essential practice of diplomacy, and in that, yoga is one of the factors he mentions. So it's not as if yoga is new to India, but the message and the enormity of the message is certainly novel and certainly accepted, as is witnessed by the Assembly at United Nations today.
I think it's also a message which would be looked around the world. It's perhaps not entirely correct to mix geostrategy with a yoga event, but when one talks about India coming of age as an international power, that happens at various levels. Obviously, our economic strength is something that takes us to a certain level. The fact that we are entirely non-aligned even now is something that has helped our diplomatic cause. But would you also agree, Ambassador Dogra, that we are doing this to an international audience? It's being accepted as an international movement by the Prime Minister of India is something which establishes India as one of the major powers in a way that's not been done before.
It's a power with a difference, Vishnu. Just as it was a power with difference when we became one of the founders of the non-aligned movement. And I'm glad we did what we did at that time. So similarly, the time now requires something which is away from acrimony in the world. So in that sense, yes, India has a message which has been accepted. And as you said very rightly, it's not just because of this that India will become a power. But it is one of the factors that will contribute to India becoming once again a major leader of the South, and also contribute to India being accepted as one of the saner, balanced voices in the higher councils of the world. So in that sense, I think it's a contributory factor.
All right. Thanks very much for being with us We're going to take a short break. I'd like to invite our guests to stay on. We'll come back to this discussion in the next few minutes. Welcome back. So there's been a Guinness Book of World Records record which has now been set with the maximum number of nationalities assembling at the United Nations lawns for International Yoga Day, headed by our Prime Minister. It is a fairly landmark event. It's a different form of diplomacy which India has been quite skilled at in different ways over the decades. Ambassador Veena Sikri joins me as well at this stage. Ambassador, how significant was what we saw at the United Nations today?
I think it's very significant for several reasons. I think, first of all, first time after India supported the resolution in the UN and got the maximum number of co-sponsorships, and the resolution was adopted. This is the first time that our Prime Minister is leading the yoga celebrations at the UN headquarters. But I think what is very significant is that the yoga practice today in New York at the UN headquarters was led by a teacher, an American teacher, a very well-experienced and well-versed American teacher who did not in any way try to westernize the yoga that she presented and that she requested her students to perform. She kept the spirit and the universality of yoga fully intact. She began with Om, she ended with Shanti, she explained every exercise, she kept the traditional Indian names of the exercise, the Makhar Asan, the Vajra Asan, all of that, and she explained it very well indeed. Did not try, otherwise you have all kinds of Western names being given to various asanas, and she picked the best. She picked the ones that every colleague would perform. She explained the importance of it, the standing postures, the seated postures, the supine postures, and the pranayam. So I think it was a very well done, a very well presented performance exercise of yoga, and it was remarkable to see people from the largest number of nationalities performing well. It is not that they were complete novices. No, they knew what they were doing. They were following the teacher, they were following their leader, and our Prime Minister was sitting amidst them and performing absolutely outstanding because he is so familiar with the yoga exercises himself. So for all of us who are yoga practitioners, this was an excellent message to the world. Our Prime Minister's speech focused on the universality of the message of yoga.
Sure.
That it is for all ethnicities, for all faiths, and it has been accepted as such. This was seen in practice today by those who were there in New York. I think it's a great example of India's cultural diplomacy.
Yep.
The message that yoga is a part of Indian civilization, but it belongs to the world.
Absolutely. I just wanted to go across, Ambassador Sikri, to Dr. Rajkumar Yadav as well. Dr. Yadav, this is also, I think, a larger message to people across India as well, people like me who desperately need to get into yoga a lot more. It helps us in so many ways.
Yes. And in fact, in Delhi, since morning, we are busy to celebrate the great day, the 9th International Day of Yoga, that is today, the 21st of June, 2023. And the best part, which I just observed and just I was watching here, that the announcement of this greatest, the world record.
Yeah.
One of the greatest, I can say, the world records, the Guinness Book World Record for this, the yoga being performed by the participants from the maximum number of countries.
Yeah.
Almost, I think, 135.
139.
That is, I think, one of the greatest
139,
achievements.
I think.
Yeah,
and that breaks the previous record. You're right.
Yes.
It's 135 nationalities, breaks the earlier record of 114 nationalities.
Yes. So it's
incredible.
135, and that is in the presence of our Prime Minister, Narendra Modi ji. And I think that is one of the greatest achievements what we have right now.
No, absolutely. Vandana, sorry, we lost your line earlier. Go ahead with your thoughts as I begin to wrap this up. Yeah, Vandana.
Thank you so very much. I just want to say, from the Windy City where Swami Vivekananda came in 1893, and he did say, East has to contribute spirituality to the West, and this is just the beginning, with the 9 years completed. And it started in UN, and excited to know that, because we are not talking about the numbers 135, 139, but just imagine it's happening in United Nations, and we should all be. And I really appreciated the previous speaker, Ms. Sikri, I think she was talking about, what yoga is. We should talk about yoga. We should not be westernizing it. It belongs to us, and it is for the world, and it ends up with Vasudhaiv Kutumbakam. That is what that message was. And beautiful for a people of diaspora like we are, where we have been seen like, the snake charmers now, what we have contributed. And India does get its respect when we're talking about his meetings, that from economic part of view, and then it is a spiritual part of view. So it is all a best combination. I can just add on to that.
It is absolutely holistic. I'd like to thank you all very much for being with us.